Hello again, and welcome back to Educator.com's Advanced PHP with MySQL course. In today's lesson, we're going to be continuing development of our web application, incorporating what we learned in our last lesson about update statements. This version of the web application is going to be new version 18.0, and basically what we're going to be doing is creating two new admin pages that are going to allow us to update the information for both items and departments in our store. So we're going to create a page called updatedepartment.php for departments and updateitem.php for updating items. Each of those pages are going to make use of some new functions in our database access class, or new methods in our database access class. In particular, the update department page is going to make use of the update department function. And likewise for updateitem.php, it's going to use the update item function. Basically, each of these functions are going to run update queries that are going to update specific items within, or a specific item or department within the database. And basically they're going to use the, as we saw before, the set format to set the values of the different columns for a particular row. And the where clause is going to be used to specify a department ID or an item ID so that we're uniquely identifying the single row that we want to update, because we're going to be updating one department or one item. So let's take a look at what these new functions look like. So in our database access class, if we look at update department, basically what this function does is it takes, as a parameter, it takes a department object, and basically what it is it's a populated department object that has the ID and the name specified. And basically this function is used to update a row in the departments table. We already have functions add item to department and remove item from department for adding and removing items from a department that update that linking table. This function is specifically just for updating the row in the departments table, which is our departments table only has two columns, a department ID and name, so this basically is going to be for updating the name of the department. So you pass the department object with the ID of the department that is already set, has its property set, so it's going to be set to the department ID. Its department ID is going to be set to the department you want to update, and its name is going to be set to the new value that you want to set for its name. Then basically what it does is it creates an update statement using the sprintf function again to make things easier to create. So it's going to say update the departments table where the department ID equals, and then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting department ID equal to the value that's specified in the object that was passed to the function. We're going to set its name, notice in single quotation marks because it's a string, equal to whatever name was passed, name was passed as part of that department object to this script, to this function. We go ahead and we run the query. We check to make sure that one row was updated because it's a primary key identifier, so it should only update one row. And if everything works out, we return true. If not, we return false. So the update item function works very similar, except instead of a department object, it takes an item object as its parameter. And the same thing happens. It builds up an update statement from that item object. So the item object is going to specify an item ID as its property, and that's going to use it to specify which item row in the items table we want to update. And then it's going to have all the other properties of the item set, the name, price, description, and image file extension. And what it's going to do is we're going to create an update statement that's going to basically just reset all of those values to whatever values that were passed in as part of this item object. So here we're creating a rather large update statement. We're saying update the items table, and we're going to set the name, price, description, and image file extension columns for a particular item. And so basically what we're doing is we're just basically setting all of the properties for a particular item in the table. We're setting all of the column values. Even though maybe we've only updated the name or the price, it's a little bit easier than having logic that would have to go through and test, okay, is this item just been updated as far as only its name was updated? Was its price updated? Was its description updated and its name? So instead we just go ahead and update all of them at the same time, make it a simpler update statement. We're going to update it for the row where item ID equals the ID of the item that we passed in. So that's going to signify one row. And then we use sprintf to generate the query, and we basically pass it all of this information that's encapsulated in that item object that's passed to the function as its parameter. We go ahead and rerun the query, test to make sure that one row was updated, and then return true on success, false on error. So if we look at what the new administrator site looks like, we can see that we have two new links. We have an update item link and an update department link. And if, for example, we click on update department, we can select which department we want to update. Let's say we want to update the apparel department. And if we select that, let's say we want to change it to a men's apparel department. We go ahead and actually, just so you know, if we look at the store, we can see that the current store has 3 departments: apparel, electronics, sporting goods, our usual 3. After we run this update statement, we're now going to have Department 3 is going to be updated to men's apparel. It's going to let us know it's successfully updated. Now when we go back to our store, we can see that this first department, or Department 1, is equal to men's apparel, and it contains all of the same items that were in the apparel department, because none of the department's items table wasn't changed at all. We only made an update to the department's table. Similarly, for our update item script, first we were presented with a drop-down box to select a item that we want to update. For example, item 1002, and then it's going to present us with a text boxes to update the name, price, and description. Now, I haven't included here a way to update the image because it adds a lot of complexity to processing this, because you have to test whether we have to extract information from the image, such as a file extension. And also you would have to test, has a new file been provided? If not, you have to have code to say, okay, let's keep the old image, as opposed to let's keep the old image. And then you also have to test, is there a new image that was provided? And if so, you have to move the uploaded image. It just adds a lot of complexity to the code that doesn't really illustrate what we're trying to illustrate in this example, which is how to use the update function. So basically, I've eliminated that from the update item function, and instead, in this form, we have text boxes for the name, the price, and the description. And then instead of having a file chooser selector to choose an image file, I've just gone ahead and included as a hidden field the image file extension that's already part of this object that's already set. So basically, this isn't allowing us to change the image. Now, ideally, you'd set it up so that you could do that, but again, it just adds a lot of complexity to the code that's going to sort of obscure what we're trying to learn in this lesson. So basically, I've just included as part of as a hidden field, the image file extension. Also, have included the item ID as a hidden field. So what's going to happen is when the user submits this form, it's going to submit any changes we've made to name, price, and description. It's also going to submit the item ID, and it's also going to submit the image file extension. So what's going to happen is the part of the form that processes updating of an item, it's going to build up an item object from all of that information, and then run that update item function that we learned about, and it's going to pass it that item object that we've built up. So for example, if we look at our update item script, it's got a couple of different sections in it. For example, when we first are presented with the form, we have a drop-down box to select an item, and when we select an item, it actually passes an action variable back to the form that says show item. And so what we're doing is we're loading the item from the database, and what that allows us to do is output all of this information you're seeing here. It's going to allow us to output the name, the price, the description, and then also those hidden fields, the item ID and the image file extension. And then when we click on update item, let's say we've made some changes, then we enter the different section here based on the action variable, form variable set to update item. And basically what we're doing is we're going to be creating a new item object, and we're going to be creating it from that data that was supplied on that form. So it was supplied, if we look at the beginning of the form here, we have an updated item post variable, and that's, if we look at the source again, we can see that's the name we've given to all of our form variables, our input form variables. They're basically arrays called updated item, and then the key of the array is the name of the variable that we're trying to update for the particular item. So basically, in this processing section, we're accessing that updated item array that was passed as a post variable, and we're creating a new item based on the item ID that was submitted by a hidden field, the name, the price, and the description that were supplied on the form, and then the image file extension that was also provided by a hidden field. Now, if you'll notice that we've actually added the method add slashes here for both the name and the description, because those are text data that the user could put, for example, single quotes or double quotes within that might cause problems in our SQL query. So we're going to run the add slashes method on them so that they're properly escaped, so that in the step when we do call the update item function and we pass it this item object to update, it'll be able to successfully generate the query. As long as no error happens, then it goes ahead and outputs a message that says everything was updated okay. So for example, let's say, and to show you how the add slashes method is going to work, we can see that we can, I'm going to show that we can add single quotes, for example, to our name of our particular item. So we're going to update it to 42-inch LCD television. We're going to have the name be surrounded in single quotes. Maybe we'll drop the price to $400. And then let's go ahead and update the item. Now it should say that the item was successfully updated. Now if we look at our item, we can see that it's called 42-inch LCD television with the quotation mark successfully around there, which means that we were successfully escaped in the query. And then we can also see that the price was updated. And so that's basically how the update item form and the update department form work. And just again to note, we've made use, well, we just saw how we made use of the add slashes to properly escape any data that was submitted by the user. So for example, the name of the department and then also the name and description of an item. We run the add slashes method on them. In addition, when we're outputting, after we, for example, select an item to update, we actually are outputting to the user the current information about that particular item. Well, we need to properly escape this data. So for example, I should have picked item 1002. Now that has a double quotation mark in it, which is a special character in HTML, so it needs to be properly escaped. So when we select that, it'll properly output it here without causing any problems with the interpretation of the HTML. So we're making use of the HTML special chars function on the part of the update pages where we're basically showing the user what the current values are. And so that enables them to be output appropriately and the HTML rendered appropriately. So that ends today's lesson. Thank you for watching educator.com. I look forward to seeing you next time.